How's this? Does it sound better?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right, and we should be live right now.
All right.
Check. See if we're. Hello and welcome, everyone. We already have our first joiner, Tony. Welcome to the show. Today we have with us. It is Mario Estrada. Is that correct?
Yes, you can go. That's my real name. That's my legal name. But my page and everything is under Mario Presents.
All right, and just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a little bit. Basically, you're a Latino, gay man, correct?
Correct.
All right. Just tell us about a little bit about yourself and how you came to become a conservative.
Okay. So my story starts actually, I can't even say it starts with me or my parents. It starts kind of with my grandparents and my great-grandparents. I'm not going to really go too far into it, but the reality is my great-great-grandparents were migrant workers, and they paid money to come and work the fields in the season. As a result, my grandfathers were both born here in the United States. One of them far as north as Gary, Indiana. I have the ancestry records to prove it. It's hysterical. But they didn't grow up here. They left and they went back to Mexico. When they became adults, they moved back to America and they brought their children with them, which were my parents. My parents met here in America. They had me. I'm kind of the product of that. So that's really where my story starts. I'm kind of this product of 3 generations of legal immigration. My father still has a green card. My father was also.
Are you first generation? Were you born in America?
I was born in America. I was born here in Southern California in Lakeview Terrace.
All right, and both your parents were not born in America.
Correct. My parents were not born in America. My parents were both born in Mexico. One of them was born in Guadalajara, and the other one was born in Mexico City.
Yep.
But both of my grandfathers one of them was in Gary, Indiana, and the other was in Santa Maria, Texas.
Right. Very similar to me. My father was born in Italy, and I was born here in Detroit, Michigan. So we're both first generation immigrants, basically, that were born here.
Yeah. And I find I resonate a lot with a lot of the people in our movement, in the conservative movement, and just because, our stories are so similar because of the fact that a lot of us are legal immigrants. And even the ones that aren't legal, the ones who become legal, then have a very, very disdain for the ones who don't become legal. And that was something that my mom was very, very strict, not very strict about, but very, very wise to teach me. She wanted to make sure that I understood that when we do things the right way, we don't have to live in fear. This is one of the reasons why we should be doing things the right way. My mom was very big on giving me elocution lessons. So we'd sit there and we would make our sounds with our mouths because my mom wanted to sell any prejudice when someone was talking to me. She didn't want me to speak with any sort of an accent. And we lived in San Fernando, or Silmar. So most of those people, if you would think of a Hispanic person speaking, you tend to think of the typical Rosie Perez accent, and that's what I was basically immersed in. But my mom was very, very very, very wise to just make sure that I didn't pick that up, because for her it was more important for people to see the person that I am and listen to the words that I have to say rather than focus on anything that would give them a sort of a prejudice, such as an accent. And my dad was really big on teaching me about how Che Guevara was not a good person. How socialism destroyed Hispanic countries and Latin American countries, because my dad had a Latin American education.
So Mario, are you this is JJ, by the way. Are you was your parents conservative?
No, my parents actually, my father doesn't vote. My father still has a green card, and my mother's was a kind of you're Latin, you vote Democrat. So she's one of the Kennedy Democrats. She's very vividly remembers when Kennedy was assassinated, and we've had that discussion before. But she's a very, very staunch Democrat. She thinks that they have her best interests, and I haven't spoken to her in quite a long time politically, because we don't really. After I came out as a homosexual, there was a big disavowalment, and I just I found my own tribe, we call it, with my own people. And the interesting thing is, my tribe ended up encompassing most of the rest of my family. Everybody else, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my brothers, my sister-in-law, everybody, they have no problem with my sexuality. It's more my parents, and they basically separated themselves from the family because of their beliefs, and that I can't stop them. I pushed out an olive branch here and there. I send them a Christmas card, a thank you card, but it's not real. It's not a real warm relationship. So I haven't really discussed what she's going to be thinking about our president. But the last time I sent a message to my dad, I sent him a picture of myself at the Trump rally and the picture of all the people around me. He's like, "Oh my God, all those brainwashed people." That was
Well, I get the same thing, Mario. And I'm half Latino as well. My dad is they're all from Texas, and we moved up here into Michigan as well. So it's I can relate. It's somewhat of a challenge because I got a lot of liberal family on my Mexican side, but. So how did you get the views? I mean, how did you become a conservative?
How did I become a conservative? Okay, so after I dropped out of college, I moved to this little tiny town. It's called Simi Valley with this friend of mine who was a farrier. He worked with horses, and I had always, I'd always hung out with the cowboys in high school. I was always, my grandmother has a ranch in Rosarito, so I've ridden horses before. So I kind of fell very, very deep into this cowboy culture, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Chad happened to also be gay. So the two of us, we weren't together, but we were friends and we were roommates, and we enjoyed the same things. So we'd go horseback riding, we'd go line dancing, and I took it so far as actually to compete in the gay rodeo circuit. I actually did bronking, what were they? The bulls, steer. That's what they call them. So and yeah. And I made time. So, but that's where I kind of fell into this love of America, because cowboys generally love America, and I get it, and
right.
So that's really where it all started, and I was never really connected with my parents at that point because I was living on my own, and that became I guess you could say my rah-rah. It was like my early 20s, my early 20s. And then by the time I was 21, 22, 23, and I was total in the pocket of the red pill, and there was nothing you could do because I held on to all of the values that my parents gave me, and I adopted them for the conservative values because I found that those values that they gave me really, really, really matched with more the conservative party than the Democrat party that I was witnessing.
I find that a little ironic because you stated they were highly Democrat, but yet
right.
they tend to have the conservative values, which honestly I think partially. Do you think that? Let's be honest, there's a lot of conservatives, and that's the big argument going on in the conservative movement right now is the homosexual movement compatible with the conservative movement, right? It's a big debate. Would you not agree?
Right. No, I agree. And it's especially with America First, and I hate to bring up his name, but the other guy, Nick, we have to understand that being gay is just a small portion of who you are. It's not everything. And some people really wear it on their sleeve when they wear rainbow everything. They go on gay cruises, they do this, they do that. And that's never been my world. That's been part of my world. And that's where how can I say? I understand from the religious aspect, the conservatives who are highly religious, they don't understand homosexuality, they don't want to do it. But if they were to have a gay son or a gay daughter, they're not going to disown them. And if they do, then it's their loss. That's the true conservative nature. It's tolerance. It's true tolerance. That's what Jesus Christ taught. And we all have to be tolerant of one another. But where my rights stop are where your rights begin. And I had a beautiful discussion yesterday with two Democrats at the rally who were staunch left. And they didn't understand why I couldn't agree with gay marriage. And they were floored because I told them, if my church, because I'm Catholic, I respect my church's right to say no and tell me I can't have my gay wedding because it's not part of the faith. And I understand that. I'm not going to force that down their throats, I go find another church that will, or have another
Right.
non-denominational ceremony.
I'd like just to touch on this a little bit. Like, would you agree that a lot in the gay movement or LGBTQ, flamboyancy tends to be quite common? Would you not?
Yes. Being flamboyant is definitely I don't even want to say it's a tenet of the movement, and the flamboyancy is what gives us art. I hate to throw it out there. It's what gives us art. It's what the figure skaters and the artists and the poets and the musicians. It's that flamboyancy that we embrace when you're on stage, but when it's in your personal life and when you're actually seeing it down on the ground level, you're like, oh, maybe that's a little too much for right now. But sometimes it's an effective tool, and that's where Mario presents.
Well, do you feel that could be part of the problem that is causing conservatives and this movement to have some? I mean, isn't flamboyancy like the polar opposite of conservatism?
No, because unless you want to take unless you're defining conservatism as something like what the Amish have, where everybody's in a bonnet, everyone's wearing the same thing, you can't do this, you can't do that. That would be taking conservatism to a literal level where you are completely subject to the rules and regulations of the social status quo. And that's not really what Conservatism, for me, is really just understanding individual liberties and being open to new ideas, protecting life, religion, rights, promoting ideas that benefit society as a whole. We shouldn't be promoting miscreant lifestyles and say, hey, you know what, you can have sex with whoever you want because an abortion's just around the corner, or this drug is gonna prevent you from getting a sexually transmitted disease, and you could just go ahead and rip off that condom and go and have unadulterated sex at all times. It's, pick it up in the bathroom, in the mall, wherever you want. That's not.
But you fail to see how a lot of conservatives could have issue with flamboyancy, and I've seen a lot of these gay pride parades where they're some of them are half naked.
Oh, absolutely, and even the LGBTQ conservatives, and this is we can't even use the rainbow umbrella with them. We just have to call ourselves conservatives who happen to be LGBTQ. A lot of them don't even go to Pride. Right. They say, oh, it's disgusting. It's completely taken over. It's a reason for everyone to go look at me and look at how gay I am. That's not what being gay is about. Being gay is just, especially being a conservative homosexual, it's about letting me live my life and letting me choose to spend 15 years with the person that I choose.
Oh, I totally really see. My stance is on, I believe marriage to be between a man and a woman, right?
Mm-hmm, I do too.
My stance though is, see, I was originally, when it all went down with the gay marriage stuff, I was trying to convince conservatives and people on the right, like, I wanted to give, what did they call it? It wasn't marriage. When the debate was going on. They were
civil unions.
Civil unions, right? I was on that side of the fence. Deep down, honestly, I don't think that government should be in the business of marriage at all. Period. In my personal opinion.
You and I are completely in agreement on that. I believe that the government should separate itself from the marriage argument. And you hear all the clacking. Governor Jerry Brown, in the Supreme Court of Appeals here in California, when they were arguing Proposition 8 after it passed, Governor Brown made a very, very astute point, and even a broken clock is right twice a day. Governor Jerry Brown, who's a Democrat, said that the legislature would not violate a couple's constitutional right to marry if, in fact, the legislature chose a word other than marriage to describe the union.
Right. I think that was a major issue with most on the conservative side. It wasn't
a huge issue. I mean, I ran around town telling people we need to separate marriage from civil union. Marriage should be in the church. You go to get a marriage certificate from the church, and you get a civil union from the judge, any judge, whatever it's called, and those civil unions basically recognize that these two people.
But would you agree most in your movement is against your own position? You're a minority in your own movement.
I'm a minority within a minority within a minority,
Right.
and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of this culture in the gay movement of just like boycotting everyone for everything?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because it's feeding into the stereotype that if you're gay, you have to only shop gay businesses. You only have to shop gay hairdressers. You only have to have gay stylists. You only have to have, you live in a gay town. You live, you wear rainbow on everything that's not okay. And believe it or not, a vast majority of the LGBT community is thinks that way, that they have to be like that, and that's not.
How do you think it's?
That's not my voice.
how are you gonna? How's the two communities ever going to come together and be civil with each other if the one community is like, you're familiar with the baker? They got sued for the wedding cake, right? Like, do you think that man's gonna wake up in the morning and say, after he's been sued, like, I see the error in my ways?
Right.
They're
not doing themselves any favors. We both agree on that. Their behavior is, I don't want to get too. I'll go into it. Their behavior is very similar to those kids who were given a participation trophy, and it brings it all the way back down to this millennial, blah blah blah, at Generation X thing, because if these kids always get a participation trophy, if mom and dad are always there to say, there, honey, it's okay, and they're not there to pick them up and say, hey, you know what? No, you are a good person. You are strong. These are your good points. These are why they're doing these things to you, and this is how you can become better. Instead of doing those things, we're coddling them, and now these generations get upset when they don't have their way.
Absolutely.
It's apparent.
Absolutely.
I'm going to play a short clip here. This is from the opening of the ChickFilA in Toronto. All right, we're just going to listen in. I'm gonna just get some of your thoughts on what some of these people had to say. Did that sound fuzzy to you?
No.
What was that?
Accused of homophobia and is openly against gay marriage. CTV's Janice Golding is at the Toronto location of ChickFilA, where lineups of customers have been met with lineups of protesters. Janice.
That's right, Michelle. The protesters have finally gone away, although they were here most of the morning and afternoon shouting.
Mario, how's that sounding on your end?
I don't hear anything, dude.
All right.
Very angry.
Well, basically, it's the ChickFilA protest, and this guy is literally, he says in this interview for the opening of the ChickFilA protest, he states that he's not going to choose a chicken sandwich over his life. This gay man, and somehow he literally believes that because ChickFilA donates to basically the Salvation Army is who these people are. You know the guys with the little bells and the kettles outside of these are the bad guys. Right. Do you live in any fear of these?
No, I don't. Okay. Are you ready to have your minds blown, both of you guys? Are you ready?
Let's do it. Let's see what you got to say, Mario.
When ChickFilA opened up here in Palmdale, California, I spent the night in line to be one of the first people in line to get ChickFilA, and I got my free meal I got 52 free meals on the card. I was one of the first 100 people to get through, and I got that free thing. And I spent the night in the parking lot, and it rained and it thunderstormed. I put my life on the line for ChickFilA.
It really is that good.
It's the Lord's chicken.
It is. The Lord was watching down on us.
I think you have a very interesting perspective, and you can laugh at yourself. That's what brought me to you. You're not uptight. You can laugh at yourself. A lot of people take everything so seriously.
Life is way too short to take it seriously, man. I mean, here's the trick to life. Here's the trick. None of us are getting out of it alive.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's definitely true.
That's the truth. And
But there is the afterlife. So yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Afterlife. There is the afterlife, and if you want to go into there, we'll go into there because I have because again, I'm Catholic. I'm confirmed. I get it. I understand it. I understand the religion. I'm never going to tell people that I'm going to renounce my God. Yeah. Never, because I understand the seriousness of confirmation.
So do you believe that being homosexual or participating in sodomy is a sin?
No, I don't.
No,
you want to know why? Because
ahead.
The real sin is debauchery.
Right. I mean, but there's some on the right that would include debauchery.
But then if they include debauchery, then they have to include all of debauchery, including heterosexual debauchery, and then they don't really want to talk about it anymore. They focus back on sodomy.
Well, that's funny. This is similar to what me and JJ were just talking about. He's similar, but like I think like I smoke, I drink occasionally, right? I believe those things to still be sins, right? I believe even not appreciating what you have is a sin. I believe a lot of people sin all the time, every day, right? But the difference between me, I'll say it's a sin that I'm just a sinner, right?
Right.
But you're not saying that. You're saying that being homosexual is literally not a sin.
Right. Because, it's not that it's not a sin. I'm a sinner. I know that. I know deep in my heart I'm a sin. And when I tell people, and this is where I break Christians' hearts. So terrible. Some Christians, they break, and this is where I really shatter their narrative. I tell them, you have to realize that my sin of homosexuality is divinely punished.
Oh, I agree with that.
They look at me like I'm sideways, and I'll tell them, my tree of love will never bear fruit. Why are you here to remind me of that?
Right. That's the truth. I mean, it says somewhere in the Bible, like, soon as judgment comes into any realm or situation between people, the spirit leaves. Immediately.
You're absolutely right. And that's exactly how I combat when someone tells me, oh, sodomy is a sin, and I remind them debauchery is a sin, and when they keep going, I remind them that I'm already divinely punished. What worse can you do to me? And oftentimes they kind of get really quiet and they just kind of slink back into that little corner where they came from, because there's nothing more that they can say. My love will never bear fruit. Congratulations, you're lucky.
Right. Well, listen, Mario, while we're on this subject, I got to ask, I'm looking at some of your pictures, and I just want to know if, are the heels a statement?
Yes, they are. They're a statement to the left.
It seems that's what it looks like. I mean, that's what it looks like to me, so.
It's a statement to the left to really hammer down the idea that this person doesn't follow the normal narrative. He refuses to stand and be told what to do, what to say, how to represent himself. Because there's only one person that can tell you how to represent yourself, and that's you.
Right. So also, I noticed you did a little rally the other day. Were you the one that put that together, or are you just you're part of Latino for Trumps? Are you a part of that?
Well, I'm friends with a lot of the administrators for Latinos for Trump. I was interviewed. One of the Latinos for Trump administrators coordinated the interview with me and Katie McKinney when I was in New Mexico. I have been following a lot of the Lexit leaders, the Latino exit movement. David Basulto, Jesse Olguin, Paloma for Trump, Natalia. So all of them I've been really following, and when I found out that this Lexit event was happening, I had to go. I was like, I have to go to this event, because we really need to remind people that Latinos don't all fit in one box. We all share different subtle differences, and that's even what I talked about yesterday in my rally, is that conservatives come in many, many shapes and colors and sizes and styles, and we wear our patriotism in everything that we do, from the hair we stress over, like I said, to the clothes we wear, to the makeup we use. I I stood next to some big burly man in New Mexico with a red, white, and blue beard. Don't tell me that that's not showing support. You go to a football game and they got their faces painted.
Well, the conservative movement is really morphed into something like let's be honest. If 15 years ago someone would have came up to me and been like, "Hey, in the conservative movement, 15 years from now, you're going to have a gay Latino man wearing high heels at rallies," I don't know if I would have believed it.
Right. Most people wouldn't have, because gays were scared. 15 years ago, they were scared. They were scared of coming out because they thought they were in the minority, and really, a lot of times they were. They were only about. They say there were about 35% of the total LGBT population. They say that we're about 35%. With this walkaway movement, I think we're closer to pushing that 45, 50%. We really are starting to take over and starting to just stand up because we're gaining strength in numbers. I remember it was.
Well, you guys are much more active also than a lot of normal conservatives. Let's be honest, the normal, let's say, typical, stereotypical Christian conservatives are not getting out there. You guys are more vocal and more involved, it seems.
It's because we break stereotypes, and the media loves to break stereotypes.
Right.
The media loves it. They want to focus on it because they want to look away, but they can't. Because everybody else is looking there.
Right. And sometimes that gives me resentment because I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly a white community at one time, right? And then we started school of choice, right? And then we started having African-American kids come into the schools, right? And soon as they would come in, they would instantly get popular, right? And here I am, I've been here for 15 years building my reputation, and this kid just moves in and he's instantly more popular than me just for being black. You get what I'm saying? And
right.
And I feel that way about the conservative movement a lot right now. Like, you notice a lot of the people that work their way up through the grassroots right now are either Latino, black, gay. They seem to rise up quicker.
Right, and that's mostly in part because, again, the media doesn't want to see it, and it's what everybody else is focusing on because it's playing, and I hate to say it, it's playing up to the stereotypes because we all have them. Stereotypes are not a bad thing. Prejudices aren't a bad thing. We have to understand them, and once we understand them, we can use them effectively.
No, absolutely, and that's how you get a Candace Owens or a Milo Yiannopoulos or.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I only recently started wearing heels to rallies when I started doing rallies publicly this year. I've always been really, really quiet, but I've done it. I've been out here in Palmdale for, all my life. And when I moved back out about 10 years ago, I connected with the local Republican group. I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing for the LGBT?" And they go, "What do you mean? There's LGBT conservatives?" I go, "Yeah, I'm one. I'm right here." And they go, "Okay, what do you want?" And they go, "I want to set up a booth at the Gay Pride here in Palmdale." And they go, "Oh, you guys have a Gay Pride in Palmdale?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "Yeah, we don't really want to have anybody to work. We don't have anybody to work it. But if you want the stuff, you're welcome to it." And I said, "Great, thank you so much." And I went and took the stuff. I registered voters. I talked to people about conservative ideas. And I sat there and I got pointed and left out year after year after year after year. And I didn't care.
Well, the heels are certainly a big FU to the establishment. No, and also, but you do, have it seems, you have a lot of drive and passion for what you're doing. But let's talk Trump then. What attracted to you and why Trump?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you on this one. I kind of was I don't know if I'm really ready for Trump when he was running. My husband was all in. He's like, Trump, 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 Trump. So he came down the stairs, Trump, 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 Trump. And I looked at my husband like, because I like the underdog. I like the Herman Cain. I like the what was the doctor's name?
Paul?
No, the other doctor, the black doctor.
Oh,
I like Carly Fiorina.
The one that's working, Ben Carson.
Yes, I like Ben Carson. I love bless his heart. He was a little slow to quick on the uptake, a little slow on the uptake, but it's because it's just he wants to make sure that every single word is perfect.
W-
And I respect
Yeah, I like Ben too. He's actually from Detroit. He grew up in Detroit.
So,
But yeah,
so I kinda
to get
have my
back to
notes,
to,
but, yeah,
to get back on
yeah.
Trump though, would you agree that Trump opened the door in a way to like the gay movement and the conservative movement? It seems like it's
absolutely.
exploded since he's
Yes, when he came out on stage and had that LGBT flag,
right.
and it drove the media nuts. They looked for every possible way to from he's holding it upside down, which means it's some sort of subtle message. Really, motherfucker. Like, really, I just wanted to snatch their weave. I do. The media, I just wanted to like reach out, snatch their weave, and watch them freak out because their real life lies are being exposed. And Donald Trump was the first president to have homosexuals in his speech at the Republican National Convention, saying that we're going to launch, a world, what is it? We're going to eradicate AIDS in 10 years. We're going to decriminalize homosexuality across the world. And then he appoints the open homosexuals to Germany, which has an influx of Muslims, and they already have separate bus systems because they can't even keep their women protected.
Right,
because of the influx of immigrants.
That's why I don't understand the movement. They're over here attacking the Salvation Army and ChickFilA. Like, what a waste of breath.
Exactly. They've been a waste of breath. They excommunicate me. Like, really? I never went to your church. Just because I wear a red shirt doesn't mean I work at Target. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, but how do you feel? Okay, you're basically a gay. With your beliefs, you believe that people on the right have the right to believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, right? You support that right? How are you going to bridge the gap between basically your own tribe, you're still a part of the gay community, right? That is dominantly liberal.
You could say that, but I don't even go to the gay clubs. I mean, the only gay club I went to was a gay cowboy bar where I would go line dancing and two-stepping and,
Right. Well, most conservatives don't go to the clubs and the party scene as much. That's part of conservatism.
Right. I mean, that was the extent of my partying.
Right.
Going to the barn dance.
But my question to you is like, how do you feel when you see your community attacking? You're a part of both these communities, right?
Mm-hmm. I get heartbroken. I get really sad. I rush to the defense of the people who are being attacked, and usually the people being attacked are the minorities within the minorities, the gay conservatives.
Right.
Where
do you see this ending? Like, do you see when do you see the lawsuit stopping? Like the bakery guy got sued again, right? They just keep it. When do you ever see this ceasing from the gay community? Like, what do they ultimately? What's the end game?
There is no end game. They're promoting a perpetual victimhood status. That's really what their end game is. They always want to be seen as the victim. If it's not one thing, it's another. I don't understand. I honestly don't understand them. I tried to help my local community out here, the LGBT center out here, and they kicked me out because I'm over here trying to make them money so they can run programs.
Right. And see, I ultimately see that I have more faith in humanity now. Like, I honestly believe that if we basically what gives all these rights, right? Would you agree that forced integration is not a good thing?
No, forced integration isn't a good thing, but also self-segregation isn't a good thing either, and we see that a lot. And it's not just the gay community; it's the Hispanic community, it's the Asian community,
black, white
community. They all self-segregate,
right.
And it all boils down. And this is where people say, "Oh, you're so smart." I'm gonna call this dropout. It's a basic in-out group mentality. You see it with children, the in-group and the out-group. The kids who are popular, the kids who aren't popular, the kids who everybody wants to be, the kids who nobody wants to be. It's everywhere.
Right.
And you blow that small in-group, out-group mentality in psychology, and you blow it up on a larger scale, and you've got Hispanics who live, breathe, and die their neighborhood. They come in, they move into this area, into an area, any area, and they never leave. What happens when that little Hispanic woman or man gets on the wrong bus and they end up in south of the train tracks, and ain't nobody speaking Spanish no more?
Right.
How's she going to get home? How's he going to be safe?
Well, hopefully there's some good guy out there that'll help her out. But yeah, I completely agree with you. We self-segregate wholly. You know, even with the laws we have in place to try to stop it, it's clear that we're still self-segregated.
Mm-hmm. And it's because for some reason people will gravitate, and it's a basic human nature. People will gravitate toward others like themselves, and that's why you're seeing this surge in the Hispanic and the Black conservative movement and the LGBT conservative movement, because they're pulling people away, because people see themselves and they go, oh, let me look over here. It's no longer chic to be gay. It's now chic to be conservative. And I hate to say it, I've been doing these groups for so long, and my groups have grown and fallen apart because a bunch of gays decided they all wanted to be together because they're conservative, and all of a sudden one of them decides that this subtle thing about how gay parents and adoption, they don't like how the rest of them are talking, and they run away and they make their own group.
Yeah. And well, what is your stance on Christian organizations not willing to adopt to?
That's their decision. That's their choice. Then if they don't want, if you don't want to adopt from a Christian organization because their Christian organization isn't going to adopt you, then go find another adoption agency.
Right.
You can't force it.
See, I have more faith in humanity now. I believe if we even pulled back all these regulations like fair housing and all that, I don't think you would see that much of a change, honestly. I think
you wouldn't.
I think more of the problem is systemic than the individuals in the nation. Right. I think
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I believe that destroying the nuclear family is the number one thing that's destroying our nation. We've destroyed the nuclear family to the point where I'm hoping we can recover. I'm seeing a resurgence.
But when you say,
I hope so.
Yeah, when you say nuclear family, see, to me, the nuclear family's husband, wife. You get what I'm saying? To me,
and for me, the nuclear family is two central figures.
Right. Right, yeah. But see, you can't see how a man and a woman together can bring different characteristics that are that mutually benefit each other.
I completely agree. Right. And I'm going to counter your point with, have you ever watched an old gay couple?
Yeah. Well, I notice a lot of gay.
No.
Well, a lot of gays are feminine anyway, so they bring that woman.
But it's not a matter of effeminate or masculine. It's a matter of ideas and personalities. Because what happens is, in most personalities, you have a yin and a yang. Yeah. There's always one that's a little more mothering. There's always one that's a little more fathering. Very rare do you have two super girly men together or two super burly men together.
Right. That's why I don't understand the whole concept.
And I know.
Yeah,
and
it don't make sense to me. Why not just get a girl if you like a guy that's feminine?
Right. But here's the thing. Even I'm not 100% effeminate, and even my husband's not 100% masculine, because he will scream and run and freak out like a little girl when there's a spider.
Yeah, I don't do that.
You know, he has no idea how to work on cars.
Yeah, I get you though. So you might be more feminine than the average male, but you're not completely feminine. Yes.
Right. But he has no idea how to properly clean a home.
All right,
Mario. So, listen, man, it was good talking to you. We are going to wrap it up. However, we would like to give you, for our conservative platform, or any platform for that matter, a moment or two to speak and just get your message out there. Tell them what exactly you stand for, what you're about, and
where you can be reached.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, once again, I'm Mario Presents. I'm a Hispanic son of legal immigrants. I'm a gay conservative. I have my own website. I have www.mariopresents.com. I have an Instagram of the same name, Mario Presents. You can like Mario Presents on Facebook. I try to present issues that are a little outside the norm, but at the same time, very, very pertinent to things that you see today, and present a new voice, a new idea, and always, always, always encourage people to be unified, because the media will seek to divide us, the media will seek to suppress us, and the media will try to make us disappear.
Absolutely.
All right.
Mario Estrada, thank you very much for the interview.
Nice talking with you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. All right, guys.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
That was good.